Good morning, everybody. My name is Eamon Wall. I'm the plants manager and buyer at the Arboretum Lifestyle and Garden Centre. Today I'm going to be talking to you about roses and how easy you can grow them and the soil condition you require and the care of them. So what I'm going to start off with is giving you an idea of what different types of roses there is and then what's the best suitable for different locations or what you want for your own needs. Now the first group, now I'll start off and say what we're going to do is the general talk, caring, how, where, when and why. So this is what we have here. Now the first group then is the hybrid tea roses. And what a hybrid tea rose is a cross between a tea rose and what do you call it? Trying to think of the other name now. It's a hybrid tea rose. It's come to blank to me. It'll come back to me anyway. But it's a hybrid tea rose. There's crosses how they got them. And you can see here now, this is what you call a hybrid tea. What it gives you then is a long stem. Okay, and you get a singular rose on the long stem then. So, and it's great for a cut flower is what the hybrid tea is good. This one actually here now, what we have here is Double Delight. And you can see it's oftentimes the vanilla is dipped in ice, strawberry juice, like ice cream says you. And very fragrant. There's no flowering at the moment. All the roses this year are actually all way behind because of the weather. And it's been a big problem now. Normally we'll be actually full of flowers, but the weather has taken its toll on it. I have another one here then. This is Ruby Wedding. Another beautiful one here then again. It's available. As you can see, long, big stems. Okay, and what they do then, so these are actually perfect if you want to cut flower. So what you do, just show you an example, we'll sacrifice this rose. So if just cut it there above it, and you would have your flower on top of that, and that makes a perfect stem rose. You can't do that with the Floribunda roses. As you can see, the roses, one flower, and then you'll actually get a couple of smaller ones coming behind that. Now, so that's what we call the hybrid tea roses, all right? So I'll just pop these down here. Now, the next group then is what we call the Floribundas. Now, basically, flora being flower and abundance being plenty. Now, these actually are in flower, and we have Old Port here, which is a really very, very strong smelling rose. So when we finish here, if anyone wants to smell it, then you can see what it smells like. But what you have here, smaller roses, and you can see you have a stem, you have one central flower, then you have all these flowers around it. And what happens when that goes then, more flowers will come onto it then. So you get an abundance of flowers. So some people like, say, hybrid teas, some like Floribundas. And this one is Margaret Merrill here then again. And it's a beautiful white one then, and again, very, very fragrant. Now, the next one then is the miniature rose, and we have this fella in the pot here. As you can see, great for the patio. You know, so there's a rose for every garden. So if you're very short of space or you want to edge in the border, the little patio rose is ideal. Again, small little flowers, and it's like a flower, very prolific on flowering. So ideal for a pot. What I would say when you're potting roses into pots, go for the patio ones. Don't try and put, say, hybrid teas or Floribundas, because roses are very hungry feeders, which we'll discuss later on. And there is a problem if you put them into pots, they don't get all their nutrients. And what you should do if you are putting them into pots is actually use slow release granules. And the compost I would use when you put them into a pot would be, say, a John Innes number 3. And what a John Innes number 3 compost is, it's a loam-based compost, so it won't dry out, and it has a little bit of peat added to it. Number 1 is for seed, number 2 is for cutting, number 3 is the heavy loam compost, and it's perfect for roses then. All right, so that's your little patio rose. Again, they come in all different colours again. Not as popular as say, the Floribundas and the hybrid teas. Years ago, people would say, oh, you couldn't grow a rose in a pot, but you can if you get the right type of rose, you can grow them in pots. And the key thing then is that you feed them and look after them in the pots, because many people put them in the pots and forget to water them, and then you have problems. Not a problem this year. All right, so that's the patios. Now, so what we here we have the climbing roses, and I think probably the biggest group of roses is the climbing roses. All right. So a good one is Zephyr Drone is a good climber. I think I have it there. Zephyr Drone. Zephyr Drone is a thornless climber, and the beauty about it is that it has no thorns. So it's ideal if you're having say a pagoda or somewhere where you have children, you don't want thorns on it. And it's nice cerise pink flower and very fragrant. There's lots of different climbers like Dublin Bay, which would be a red bay. Galway Bay would be a pink climber. You have Golden Showers, which is a yellow one. And a good one to look out for then is, say, Compassion, which is a pale pink, and that's a lovely flowering one again. But this one is great for, say, going over arches. I'll show you here now. Now, as you can see there now, that's what you can do with roses. And all roses, they need support. So when you have roses, you can put them against the wall, a pillar, but you've got to tie them in, and that's the key thing. I tend not to recommend trellis for roses, because what happens is you get a nice rose, you have a wooden trellis, and then when the rose has after been there for 15, 20 years, the trellis usually rots and falls down. So I would recommend putting, say, galvanized or stainless steel wire, and what you do is raw plug it, put it into the wall, and it's a lifetime job. And like the wind we've even had in the last few days, it's amazing how it catches the trellis and the whole lot goes. It's okay if you want trellis, say, for a short-term period, then you can use the trellis. But then what happens, once the rose is on the trellis, you can't paint it, so eventually it will rot. So 15, 20 years. But you can see it's a lovely one. And the thing about the difference, I'll show you now next on the ramblers then. People often say, what is the difference between a rambler and a climbing rose? A rambling rose tends to only give you, say, one flush. Usually around June, you get one big flush of flowers, and that's it. With the climb, it'll actually repeat flowering. This one, for instance, is Rosa Albertine, and it's one that's always looked for in the garden centres. I've had it myself. You get one big flush of flowers in June, and that's it. So another one that has superseded that now is New Dawn, which is classed as a climber or a rambler. And what will happen, you get your flush, and then you get a second flush. And what they've basically done is they've got the old style roses, the ramblers, and they've hybridized them, and so you've got the repeat flowering. And also on the rambling roses tend to be smaller flowers, and they're actually more pliable stems. Now, ground cover roses. Ground cover roses, probably the best known ones now are actually the flower carpet roses. And they do exactly what it says on the label. They cover the ground. So this is white, you get them in pink, red, yellow, and they're one of the easiest roses to look after because you don't have to worry about pruning specifically. When I talk about pruning later on, you have to prune them back to a particular node or a leaf. With the carpet roses, you can get the hand shears and just shear them back. Good example is that you'll see them in Carlow on the roundabouts and county councils and areas like that, and no one's given them any real attention, and they're very disease resistant as well to black spot and rust, so very easy. Another good one then, we have it in our own display garden, is Wiltshire, and it's what we call the county series, kind of a cerise pink, and again very little to no maintenance on them, so a lot easy to look after than some of the ones we've been talking about there. So that's a flower, it's called a flower carpet. So they come in all different colours then again. And if you have a large barrel or pot, again, they make very good candidates for in pots. And if you have a bank, say a steep bank or something like that where you're not going to access, they're very good as well. And they'll flower right up to Christmas. So they're an easy one to look after. So look out for them in all the different colours there. Now, shrub roses. Now, shrub roses, we sell very few shrub roses compared to, say, hybrids and climbers, but they've made a massive comeback. Here we have Madame Isaac Perrier, and what it is, it's an old-fashioned rose, and these are around for hundreds of years. Again, like some of the rambling roses, you get one flush and then they don't repeat. But what they're after doing with many of the roses now is hybridizing them again to get them to repeat flowers. I'll show you those on the modern shrub roses. But again, beautiful smell off these, really nice. Now another one there is Monday. You can see the old style, and they are very, very easy grows. So you always envisage these around a cottage, a house, that kind of old style look again. But I was saying before that they kind of went out of favour in the last few years. People got carried away with the hybrid teas and floribunds. But now people are going back into garden. They're looking for the old roses again. So they're really making a big comeback there. And here we have Cardinal de Richard there, as you can see. This class is a Bourbon rose because these are actually bred in France, and you can see the beautiful flowers on them. So very interesting. So it's a matter of taste, whether you like that kind of old cottagey look or that kind of shrub look, they're very good. Now, so that's that one there, the card. So now, you probably wonder why I put this now. If they were good enough for this lady here, now if they're good enough for anybody. So what we have, the modern shrub roses. I'll show you what they are now. Basically what they are now, they've actually getting the old roses, these here, and you see these were not great resistant to disease, many of the old shrub roses, and you only got one flush of flowers. So what they've done now is cross those, hybridize them, and you've got the modern shrub rose. And basically the man that pioneered this was David Austin. And anyone heard of David Austin roses? Now, that's the climber one, James Galway. Sorry, this one is James Galway in front of me, sorry. Yeah, Gertrude Jekyll, and everybody knows who Gertrude Jekyll is. She was a famous garden designer. Now you can see. So, but what you have here, you've got the disease resistance, you've got the fragrance, and the repeat flowering, that they'll keep coming back. Because many of the old shrub roses, you only get one flush of flowers, and that's it then. Now I brought in one here. It's actually my own, I'm growing it here. You'd probably say, I saved it because the weather's been so bad. You know, I put this into the glass house to keep the flowers on it. And this is Munstead wood. You can see the flowers there now on it. And it's just starting to go around there. And basically, it should have lasted a lot longer, but it's been the wet weather. So many people come into us and say, why are the roses not flowering? Really, it's down to the bad weather. And they don't last as long when they get the rain. But you can see it's beautiful. And if anyone wants to smell this now, the smell is unbelievable. You probably even get it in the room there now. And another good, if you want a nice classy red, is Shakespeare 2000. And you'll often say, why Shakespeare 2000? When David Austin bred the rose Shakespeare 2000, he first of all started off with Shakespeare. And it wasn't good enough disease resistance, he thought, so it was getting problems. So he went back to the drawing board and redesigned the rose, basically. He hybridized it again, hence he came up with the one Shakespeare 2000. And it's like that again, it's kind of beautiful rose and fragrant, but more of a red than this kind of like purple. But they're beautiful. I can smell this from here now. The smell is unbelievable. So really, and what will happen with that now, it'll repeat flower. So you'll get more roses coming back. All right. And that's the one that I had in front of me here. So the picture doesn't always give you a true picture. You can see it in reality, it's even better again. That's the one I have here, yeah. Munstead wood. Yeah, so it's a David Austin rose again. Now, with care of the roses I'm planting now, this is the key to success with roses. You can have all these roses here, but if you don't have the right soil, you won't succeed. And when you're on a sandy soil is not good for roses because it doesn't hold any nutrients. And what happens, the water just runs through it. And the only way you can bulk it up is actually to add farmyard manure. And farmyard manure is basically organic matter is what you're adding to it. Now, so the preparation of the soil, key to success, okay, they prefer a rich soil that is free drain but also moisture retentive. So you get well-rotted farmyard manure and dig it into the soil. The key thing about farmyard manure, you have to make sure that either you buy it in the garden centre or you buy it from, you get it from a farmer, whichever, a neighbour, and that it is well-rotted is the key thing. If it's not well-rotted, it actually will burn the roots. And also if the farmer's been spraying herbicides, don't use it, because what will happen, that can actually damage the roses and it'll make them look like they've got a virus. So when the chemicals remain in the farmyard manure and they're actually taken up by the rose and it'll look like it was sprayed with Roundup. And you'll actually get a narrowing of the leaves and also on the flowers then, so they look very stunted. And often people bring back and we found out they've used, say, farmyard manure that's been sprayed for the herbs, usually for docks and dandelions. So that's the key thing is your preparation of your soil. And even if you have your own compost, dig it well into the soil. So I say don't try planting roses if you're on very sandy ground, unless you can work plenty of farmyard manure into it. And if not, you can always go back to the pot then, and that's your alternative then. But again, what happens in the summer when they're in full flower, they want all this moisture. And if it's not there, then they won't succeed and they'll be stunted then. Now, pruning roses. When do you prune? We're always asked, when do you prune a rose? So we always say, usually around October is the time to prune a rose. And basically you prune it back by a third in October. And you don't have to be so particular in October. The reason you're pruning it is just to stop the wind rocking it. You don't have to be fussy. And then you do your final pruning in spring. And always try to prune it before Paddy's Day. Now you see this rose here. If I was to pop it like that there now, I've just pruned it between the leaf. I haven't pruned any particular place. What happens then, this will actually rot down. And so I'll show you exactly where you prune it here now next. So why are you pruning? Removing out any dead diseased wood, crossing branches. If a branch crosses over, what happens? They rub. So you can see here, if the branch is rubbing again, then they chaff, and then you're open for disease. And the key thing is use a clean, sharp secateurs. Now, I'll show you the different types of secateurs before we move on. This one here now is a Falco. This is like your Rolls Royce. If you're going to be using, doing a lot of pruning, this one actually has a rolly handle and very ergonomic on the hand, so it's very, very comfortable. And this is what we call a bypass secateurs. If I do the stem there now, it just see it's clean cut. You know it's razor sharp. If you want to check is the secateurs sharp before you use it, most people come along and they rub their finger on it. Then they find out they've cut the finger sharp. So what you do, rub it on your nail, and if it sticks to your nail, it's sharp, and if it's blunt, it'll run over your nail, and you won't cut yourself. And that's the easiest way to know. Now, well, we call that a bypass secateurs. You have what we call a parrot's nose secateurs, and we have a bypass here. The parrot's nose you do not use for cutting roses, because what it will do, it'll actually crush the stems, and then if the stems are crushed, they're open for wounds then. Now I'll show you. Now you see the way this is cut, you see too high, too low, and the correct cut. Now so we'll just take, I'll go back to here. So if I show you here now, I'm going to go back to, see the leaf node, I can go there, or I can go there. Now I want to get some growth, there's no growth out this way, and there's growth already that way. So by cutting to the node sticking out, so you can see if I cut here, the rose will grow out there, or if I cut at this side, it will come out this side. So you can dictate what way you want the rose to grow by the way you cut it. So I'll make a new shoot in this one, come out this side, and just cut above it, and that's it there now. So you can see, if you want the rose to grow that way, you would cut this one, and if it was turned this way, you would cut that side. So you just go above it, and that should be cut, and it's at a 45-degree angle, so you have a nice clean cut, and that's the key. Now you think I'm chopping my rose, it doesn't matter because it'll flush up. Many people tend to think, oh, the rose is not growing, I won't prune it. If something is not growing, roses, shrubs, the harder you prune, the more it grows. And that's the key thing to remember when you're pruning roses. So I'll give you an idea now on the different types of roses, how you prune them. Our main first group we started off was with the floribundas. Now floribundas are big, vigorous roses. If you've pruned floribunda, the hybrid tea I should say we started off with. If you prune them really hard, you can prune them down. In October, you can prune them about here. And then in, say, March, you can prune them about to 4 to 6 inches. And that's just really hard pruning. Now, if you take this rose here now, and you wanted to prune this rose, you can see you have a node here, so you would prune it there, so if the rose would come out here. If I pruned above it, you see just above it there now, what will happen is bring the growth into the plant. You want your growth always to come out. And I take here now, we have, see the leaf there now? You can see it just there. So if I prune above that, that will actually send the branch going that way. But I will want the branch to come out. See the leaf node there? So you bring it out. So always, you can control exactly what way you want the rose to grow. Many people come along and just chop it. And then the shoots growing in and growing across each other. So, for instance there, if I want the branch to grow out this way, I prune there. If I want it to come out this way, I prune there. So you can see, you can dictate. See the one here now, the leaf is just facing in, so I would not prune that one. I would go to above it then and prune it out, because you can see to an outward facing bud. And I say a bud because when that leaf falls off, there'll be a bud behind it then, and you'll see the little line. Can you see the little line there? That's where the leaf was during the summer. So you've got to prune. So you can see that's going to dictate the direction where you're going to prune it. If there was one here then, you could prune that way and that would bring it out. All right, so the hybrid tea roses, you can really give them a good hard pruning. But say you have very rich, heavy soil and the roses are thriving and you think they're growing too vigorous, then you prune light. If you prune light, they won't grow as much. So again, you can work with what you have. So good hard pruning and it'll bring them on, light pruning and there'll be very little. With floribundas now, there tend to be smaller roses. You can see the rose is smaller. So you're not going to prune that back to 4 to 6 inches. You prune it about, say, 10 to 12 inches or even 1.5 foot. So just give it a light pruning. And say the rose is not growing good for you, you can give it a trim. Now here's an example. See this rose here now, we have what we call dieback. And show them what the picture, they cut it too far back. And when they're grown on the nurseries, they don't have time to check each one and prune it right. They're just mass producing. So you can see the black on the rose there? That's what we call dieback. So you just go, now that's correctly pruned, and you don't have the dieback on it. So when you're doing it at home, you can take the time and decide what way you want. Now I can see this rose here, we have no growth around this side. So we'll be looking to see, I'll make the growth grow there. I can prune, that's going in I prune this one and it'll bring a branch out here, or I can prune here now, just in there. Now that'll bring growth out so that you fill all the spaces. So you're the boss, you control the way the rose looks. And that applies for all of them then. Now for climbers, all you're really doing with the climber is actually just tidying it up. You're not doing any mad pruning. All right, so just tidying. And the same with ramblers, you can cut them back to where the flowers have gone, cut them back and they'll flush up again. But you don't go hard pruning climbers because you're making a framework. And again, you prune any disease, damaged branches, what you're taking out. So feeding. Feeding always starts in the spring. Usually around, again, we'll say around March or April, go by the weather. And if you want to be really accurate, you only start feeding when soil temperatures are around 7 to 8 degrees. Then you know you're going to get growth. So go by that rather than the weather. This one is, say, a high potash feed here from Westlands. So it's a balanced fertilizer. And you put that on in the spring, and then it recommends on that in June. I personally would, if go by the weather. A good example, we've had so much rain. If you put food on now, what do you call it, in say March, April is washed out of the ground by now. So you really have to go by the weather. And there's no harm putting it on every month. I'll come to the tomato feed next, what you can do with that. So many people tend to put, say, farmyard manure on the roses and they put it around, they think they fed the roses. Farmyard manure is not a whole lot of good if you don't incorporate it into the soil. So when you are planting roses, you incorporate it at the roots, mixed through the soil. And it's like a slow release. There's not a high nutrients level in it. Roses want very high potash. So you say nitrogen, potassium is the key thing. So you have a balance. And what we say, 1N to 2K. And that's the key thing. So have a very high, and that's why tomato feed can be used. Now, this is where we were saying about the flowers. If you take some flowers, you want to take them off, okay, because you want to put energy. But then say you have ornamental, this rose here is Rosa rugosa on the end here. And it's a beautiful rose. Ruby often used as a hedgerow rose. And you can see the leaf. Very fragrant. And again, you don't remove the flowers. I have this in my own hedgerow now. And you don't remove the flowers on this. And then you get beautiful hips. And you actually can grow the roses from the hips because they are species. And it looks like just a horrible rough dog rose, but it's not. It's a beautiful rose and very fragrant flowers on them. And you can just kind of the hip that you'll get from them. Now, pests. This is what tends to put a lot of people off roses. Now, the biggest pest is what we say is the green fly or aphids. All green fly are aphids, but all aphids aren't green fly. You know, so basically what it is, they will change according to colour and what crop they're on, you know, aphids. But as a general rule, they're always green fly on roses. And you don't have to panic when you see a few green fly on the rose. We see people, we get them in their own garden centre. You can spray for green fly. They're flying around in a warm evening and they'll be back then again. And don't panic. The first line of defence is washing up liquid. And washing up liquid, I swear by washing up liquid because it's the best one. And you basically spray them with that. And what it does, it coats the aphid and it'll suffocate them. And you can just wash them off. And you don't have to panic. They're not going to destroy the whole plant. In the ideal world, if you're Prince Charles, you pick up the phone and you order ladybirds and they arrive the next morning. I saw that's what he does for his roses, but we all don't have those finances to do that. So in the ideal, you can see the aphid there now, they will devour what do you call it, aphids. Yeah, you dilute, yeah, just like doing a squirting to washing up, and that'll do the trick. Then spray it onto, or even just get a sponge and just wash it down, and they're gone then, and you might have to do it next week again. But it's no panic. So you don't want to start. I didn't recommend any particular chemicals here, because I said there is lots of chemicals you can use, and there's Rose Clear and all these, but many of the are going off the market, so there will eventually be no chemicals available in the garden centre for roses. And what I say regarding chemicals and using them, if you keep using Rose Clear, you're using the same chemicals, like people using antibiotics, they build up resistance. So with aphids, they're actually born impregnated, and so they'll have generation after generation, and that's why they get immune to the chemicals so fast. Now, I've got disease on roses, okay. Number one is black spot. And this year it's going to be prevalent on roses because we've had all the right conditions, wet conditions, and you get powdery mildew, which is kind of like on top of the leaves. That's usually when you get dry, humid weather, so I don't think we'll have a problem with that this year. And the next big one then is downy mildew, which is usually under the leaves, and that's when they remain wet. So it's very important. We have no irrigation on our roses at night. during the summer, no, but they're getting wet every night now, so I've even noticed black spot appearing in their own. But you put a spray on today, it's washed off tomorrow, so you're at nothing trying to fight black spot regarding spraying at the moment. But good husbandry is what I say for that, is actually how you clean and look after that. Rust, again, rust is not a big problem on roses. Rust, again, is a fungus again. And many people bring in geraniums and things and they have rust on them, or oxalis. If you have rust on your roses, it actually will spread to your geraniums. So the key thing about all this is actually removing the infected leaves, and don't put them in your compost heap. You know, you'll have to get rid of them or burn them because the spores will remain in the ground. So I know it sounds tedious, but picking the leaves up, removing them, and not leaving them to overwinter on the ground. So keeping the place nice and clean is the best thing. And the last defence I'll show you here next. We have all the roses that are in the bags. Actually, they're all Irish grown, but this is a particularly lady grows them for us. And what she uses is garlic wonder. And I've tried it at home this year, and it's worked on the gooseberry sawfly. And basically what it is, garlic is a well-known plant for keeping away pests and disease, and also for people as well. And what you do, you mix it through tomato feed and apply it in water. And basically what you're doing, you're keeping the pests away, and you're actually feeding the plant through a foliar feed with a tomato feed. So you're giving it that extra boost. And the leaves come up nice and glossy then with the feed. And by using the garlic juice, you're building up resistance then from pest and disease. It's like a companion plant when you use garlic in the garden to keep away different pests. It's the same idea. And it's totally friendly. You could drink it, you know, that way. It won't damage. So you can spray it when people are around, children, animals. You don't have to worry about any problems with it. So it's a great one sorry? So you put 20 mils of this in the water, and you put your tomato feed. It's usually like 2 capfuls for a 2-gallon watering can. Yeah, and 20 mil of this. Just go by what it says depending on the tomato feed that you're using. And when you are applying any of these, make sure that the rose is well watered, and you apply it early in the morning or late in the evening. I always prefer early in the morning, because if you do it late in the evening and the rose remains wet, and there's some insects flying around, you can damage those. But not with this, you wouldn't, but if you were spraying other chemicals. And then what happens, if you do it late in the evening, the foliage remains wet, and then you can have spores spreading. So always in the morning, if you want to be getting 7 or 8 o'clock, so before the sun comes up and does damage. Now, and that's what's in the rose. So, are you tempted to buy roses?